Well, we're jam-packed here on a Tuesday show. Couple of weekly awards for Tennessee men's basketball, Tennessee women's basketball, and Tennessee baseball. That'll lead us into Twitter Tuesday. SEC Media Days. When is Josh Heupel scheduled to speak in Atlanta this summer? And Tennessee, a matchup on the road tonight, the second to last game of the regular season. We'll get your Tennessee-Georgia preview in segment 3 of today's show. Loaded up here on a Tuesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. I'm Eric Kane. I'm glad to have you guys hanging out with us here today. Today's episode is brought to you by RunYourPool. March Madness is here, and RunYourPool has the better way to create your brackets. RunYourPool.com, the premier sports pool hosting service. Got a fun show coming up here today, and again, you can find this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all that. Plus, you can subscribe on YouTube. Put out a graphic yesterday, guys. We are soaring with the numbers, continue to get subscribers. We are now into the 500s and like 20s and 30s right now, so thank you so much. The goal is 1,000. Continue to subscribe to the show on YouTube. But anywhere you watch it, you listen to it, thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen. We got so much to get into here today, and let's just go ahead and get right into it, all right? It's a busy day in terms of Tennessee news. Kennedy Chandler was named the SEC Freshman of the Week. The second time this season, the guard from Memphis has accomplished that feat. In wins over Missouri and Auburn last week, Chandler averaged 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Against Missouri, he had a career day, really, not in terms of a career high scoring, but just all-around performance. He had 23 points on 9 of 12 shooting, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, no turnovers, and a team-high 37 minutes. In that win against Auburn on Saturday, Chandler contributed 13 points on 5 of 12 shooting. He was plus 13, a team high when on the floor for Tennessee, and he had that key floater in the lane there at the end in the final minute that really sealed the win. So Kennedy Chandler, your SEC freshman basketball player of the week. The men, meanwhile, have moved up 4 slots from number 17 to number 13 in the latest AP poll ranking. The Lady Vols, meanwhile, have fallen back again, lost to number 8 LSU. That was a really, really tough, hard-fought game on senior day inside Thompson Bowling Arena, but the Volunteers have slipped back from 16th to 18th. The Lady Vols in the latest AP poll. On that note, Tamari Key is a semifinalist for the Naismith Women's Defensive Player of the Year. It's been so frustrating for the Lady Vols this year that started off so hot. We're down a starter from the get-go, Marta Suarez, but started off, 15-0, 15-1, about 7-8-0 in the SEC. We're playing some great basketball. Then the injuries started piling up. Then the struggles on the road. But Tamari Key's been consistent all season long. She is now one of 10 finalists for the Naismith Women's Defensive Player of the Year. She leads the nation in blocks with 108, and she is second in the nation in blocks per game at 3.72. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. To the diamond we go. Trey Lipscomb, obviously, is the SEC co-player of the week. Fourth player in program history to hit for the cycle. That came Friday against Iona when he went 5 for 5 with 9 RBIs. On the weekend, he finished hitting 786 at the plate, 3 round trippers, that's home runs, 16 RBIs, 27 total bases with 3 doubles and 2 triples. So Trey Lipscomb is your co-SEC player of the week on the baseball diamond. Jared Dickey as well for Tennessee baseball. He's been named the SEC freshman of the week. He hit in all 4 games in this weekend, or on the week rather, despite only starting in 1. He was retired only once in 13 at-bats on the week. He hit .875. He blasted 2 home runs, 9 runs scored, 5 walks, and stole 2 bags as well. One of my favorite stats from the weekend, Jared Dickey started at catcher on Sunday and hit leadoff for the Tennessee baseball team. You want to talk about some versatility there. So that was a whole lot of fun to see. All right, so those are some news and notes, rather, if you want to get into it and label it that way, for Tennessee Athletics here to kick off a Tuesday show. But let's go ahead and get into it. This is Twitter Tuesday here on Locked On Vols. This is from Give Your All UT. You can find him on Twitter at Give Your All UT. Wide receiver coaching candidates. What is a realistic home run hire? Well, I'm going to be honest with you, and we've talked about it a couple of times. This job has now officially been open for a little over a week now. At this stage in the coaching cycle, like I don't know if there's quote unquote a home run hire. Keep in mind, all the head coaches, the carousel has already ended, right? The staffs are pretty much already finalized. Sure, you'll see some movements here or there, but it's not like there's going to be any type of play caller that's going to be demoted or leave a play calling situation to come and be the wide receivers coach at Tennessee. So I guess I don't have an answer in terms of a home run hire. I know everybody wanted Trooper Taylor. I don't think that ever materialized. He's the assistant head coach with the new staff at Duke. He's got a pretty sweet gig over there in Durham. But here are some names that have been brought, to our attention over the week. David Johnson, I would consider probably a front runner for this job. He is formerly at Tennessee. Of course, he is at FSU now, but he was a part of Jeremy Pruitt's staff for 2 seasons. You have Kerry Dixon, wide receivers coach at Georgia Tech. You have Andre Coleman, the former wide receivers coach at Texas. And you have Grant Hurd, who is the Indiana wide receivers coach as well. He was formerly of Ole Miss too. David Johnson, I think, will be a good fit. I think that him and, he would kind of, bode well here with this Heupel coaching staff. We'll have to see, but I believe that Tennessee wants to get something in place before the junior day coming up over the weekend. And so I think that's going to be important to remember. So maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's Thursday, maybe it's Friday. I think Tennessee wants a wide receivers coach in place before the massive junior day coming up on this weekend, and we'll preview that later in the week. But I do think there's still some talks going on, and probably some talks with some names that I haven't even mentioned yet. But David Johnson will be a guy to pay attention to, in my opinion. We will go to Credence Wood, and Credence wants to know, will Trey Lipscomb stay consistent? That's a really good question. In our conversations with Ben McKee, I can't remember if it was when Ben came on this podcast or we were doing the Diamond Vols podcast, but the thought was, this is a guy that sat behind Andre Lipsius, a guy that sat behind Jake Rucker. Now he's a senior and he's getting his opportunity to shine. But when getting at bats and getting opportunities via the DH or a spot start here or there on the left side of the infield, he always hit well in games like this at the beginning of the season. But once you carried on into the SEC slate, it's kind of, that's when he started to kind of come back down to earth and really struggle at times. So we'll have to see what Trey Lipscomb does. He's not going to keep up this pace that he's on. Keep in mind, hit for the cycle on Friday, nearly hit for it again through 4 innings, on Saturday. At one point in time was 8 for 8. He hit for over 700 this season, or this past week. He's going to come back down to earth, don't get me wrong. But Tony Vitello believes the world of Trey Lipscomb, thinks that he's one of the best defenders in the country on the left side of the infield, whether it be at third base or shortstop. And he's been key. He's been the heart of that Tennessee lineup so far that still encompasses Jordan Beck, Drew Gilbert, and some other returners like Evan Russell. So I like what we've seen of Trey Lipscomb so far. Hopefully he will keep that up. But obviously he'll come down to earth a little bit. But staying consistent, that's a different conversation. So I have no reason to believe that he won't right now, because he is hitting all types of pitches to all over the field. That's something that I've noticed on as well. Last one here for Twitter Tuesday. Kyle Hensley chimes in, and Kyle wants to know, Freddie Freeman and the Braves, what's your stance on that situation and the Major League Baseball lockout altogether? All right, I'll be brief here. Last time we talked baseball here on Locked On Vols, I got pretty animated. Long story short about the lockout, without getting into too specifics, if you guys are not baseball fans, kind of give you the Cliff Notes version. They've been locked out since December the 2nd. It's easy to sit back and say a bunch of rich people are just fighting over, pennies, right? I think in the last couple of days, at the time of this recording, which is Monday night, the deadline, set by the owners was Monday night. If there was not an agreement for a new collective bargaining agreement, it would infringe on the regular season. You're going to miss opening day, because you need, at least a month in spring training to get everything out, stretch those arms out, get into camp and all that. So at the time of this recording, still there's no deal. I don't believe there's going to be a deal. And of course, anything can happen. But at points in times over the weekend, they were still far apart on deals. The owners are just so greedy. They're so pathetic. They continue to kill the sport. Baseball is very, very, very close to becoming a niche sport. And it breaks my heart, because baseball, used to be America's pastime. The ratings were fantastic for the World Series and the National League Championship Series this past year, because the Atlanta Braves were in it. And that's easy to see why. But it's the owners are killing the sport. It's bad. The players have gone in good faith and made, 3 or 4 proposals in the last, couple of weeks that really benefited the owners, and the owners continue to scoff at it because they would rather hurt their bank accounts than hurt their own egos, and it's pretty pathetic. So I think there's been progress being made. I don't know if they're going to come to a decision and agreement by the time the deadline passes, but I do think there will be, even you're going to miss the deadline. It looks like I think there'll be some games missed in the regular season, but I don't think there'll be that many. I think that they're on their way to getting something done. On Freddie Freeman and the Braves, it is what it is, man. In baseball, you pay for what you've done, and I've always hated that. Look at Albert Pujols getting that massive deal to the Angels. The Angels pay for the player that Pujols was for the Cardinals, and that's unfortunate. That's just, you always are paying for the player that got them to that point, and for right, wrong, and different. I don't believe that to be doing business. So Freddie Freeman, he's only 32 years old. He's got a couple years left that'll be in his prime, but after that, he'll go downhill, right? You want to pay him at $6 million, 6 years, $180 million. Atlanta put out, because it's Liberty Media released its financial records for the last couple of quarters, and no shocker, right? They made a ton of money. Obviously the Atlanta Braves, you make so much money from that battery. You just had this World Series run. I mean, the Atlanta's not short for money. Money's never been the issue. It's just all this should have been done before the lockout. Number one, this should not be a thing right now. Number two, I think Freddie's camp, from everything I've heard, it's been coming in saying, okay, we agree. Oh, we're going to pull out, and that's happened a couple of different times. So we will have to see. I will always be a Freddie Freeman fan. I love Freddie Freeman. It'll break my heart to see him playing in a Dodgers uniform. His family, he grew up in Orange County. It'd break my heart to see him go play for the Yankees. But I don't know if I'm comfortable giving him $180 million at 6 years. That's just me. Now, meet somewhere in the middle. I think Atlanta was, sitting somewhere around 5 years, 155, 160. I mean, that's realistic. Meet somewhere in the middle, or go 5 years at 165. Right? Meet even more on his side. Make it worth it, because it would be very, very unfortunate for Freddie Freeman to not be in that Atlanta Braves lineup whenever the lockout is over. So that's my take on it. We'll have to see what happens. But ultimately, this whole Freddie Freeman ordeal with the Atlanta Braves should have been taken care of months ago. It should not have been the talk all of the lockout. So thanks so much for Twitter Tuesday, guys. Not a whole lot of submissions this week, and that's okay because we have a busy show. But anytime throughout the week, I bookmark them. You take over the show on Tuesdays here on Twitter Tuesday for Locked On Vols. We'll get into SEC media schedules coming up here in just a moment, but March Madness is right around the corner. That means you need to start thinking now about where you're going to be running your brackets. Are you going for the usual, or are you going for the best? We've done our homework, and we're running our brackets through RunYourPool.com. Along with the standard brackets, RunYourPool offers game types like Survivor and Pick'ems, and they have options to edit scoring. They even offer intel to make your picks, all the stuff that you don't get at the ESPN or the CBS brackets. You got a business, RunYourPool can help you take some of that madness magic and play alongside your employees or even your clients. Plus, they offer full white glove customer support, custom branding, and one of the easiest 3-minute setups that you are ever going to find. If you want to play against us for a shot at a prize, join us at runyourpool.com/lockedon. And while you're there, create your own pool for family and friends. Enter Pure Madness at checkout for $10 off your custom pool. All the rules and details will be made available there. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon for your chance to win a cash prize. We look forward to seeing and beating you there. Welcome back into Locked On Vols here on this Tuesday. Hope you guys are enjoying your morning, your afternoon, your lunch break, your workout, whenever you are listening or watching this episode of Locked On Vols. Had a good time doing some Twitter Tuesday content, so I thank you so much for getting those in and helping us out there. Let's go ahead and talk about the SEC 2022 Media Day layout. All right, so we took this show to Hoover, Alabama last summer. I was at SEC Media Days all week long. I did the show from the hotel room, and really, really enjoyed getting to meet a lot of other Locked On hosts. Chris Gordy was there. Josh Neighbors was there. There was a couple other guys that do some shows, about college football or their respected SEC. JJ Jackson was there. He's part of the Auburn Network, and so that was a whole lot of fun. This year, it's going to be in Atlanta, and the schedule for when coaches will be on what day that came out kind of in the Friday afternoon news dump at about 5:00 Friday evening. Now, we don't know exactly what times. There's 4 different time, or there's 2 different time slots. There's morning and afternoon, and 2 teams will go simultaneously in the morning, and then 2 more teams will go simultaneously in the afternoon. Now, the opening and closing days, Mondays and Thursdays, only 3 teams go. So 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 4 teams will go. So this is what the schedule is going to look like. And we'll give you the pros and cons of every single week. Monday, kicking things off at the Hall of Fame down in Atlanta, it will be LSU, Ole Miss, and Missouri. Really sharp opening day lineup. You've got the, obviously with Brian Kelly, the storylines there taking over LSU. How's he going to fare in the SEC? All that type of stuff. That's a really, really good opening act for the SEC with sending Brian Kelly. Lane Kiffin, he's not going to be short on a quote. Lane Kiffin, a lot to prove in the SEC this year, losing both coordinators, losing Matt Corral. How will Ole Miss, stay consistent, trying to get to another 10-win season? That's a really, really good opening day team to be there as well. And then there's Missouri. And, a lot of times you're just going to see a team that's thrown in there. And we'll get to that more on day 4 when Tennessee's set to appear. Spoilers on Thursday. Missouri's just thrown in there. You got to get them in there somewhere, right? Likely Missouri will be sandwiched with probably LSU or Ole Miss, and then the other coach will have the spotlight all to themselves in the afternoon. But what is Missouri going to be? Losing your quarterback in Connor Bazelak. Missouri surprised a lot of people in the 2020 season with Eli Drinkwitz's first year, then took a major step back in 2021 when a lot of people, myself included, picked Missouri to finish 3rd in the SEC East. Eli Drinkwitz likes to run that mouth, and he just can't back it up. And so I'm not the biggest. I used to like Eli Drinkwitz until he started trying to be a comedian, trying to be in the bad boy. He's a nerd. He's a flat out nerd, right? Trying to be the bad boy of the SEC. He's kind of gotten on my nerves here lately. But nonetheless, Missouri, congratulations. You are on the opening day as well. You were just kind of thrown in there as an afterthought. Tuesday will be Nick Saban Day. It's going to be Alabama Day. Alabama is set to kick things off on Tuesday, along with Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. Obviously, Vanderbilt's to throw in on Tuesday. It is crazy. It is always about Nick Saban. Now, I'm not a veteran at SEC Media Days, but I did get a little taste of it last year, and there were some restrictions because of COVID. I get all that. But when Alabama's there, you see even more press. You see even more cameras. You see even more state troopers. You see even more crazy fans hanging out by the escalators or hanging out outside the Omni Hotel or the Winfrey, excuse me. That's when Nick Saban's there. And every coach has a state trooper escort. Nick Saban had about 10. So it will be all about Nick Saban. It will be all about Alabama on Tuesday. But Mississippi State will also be there. Mississippi State's not likely going to be in contention for an SEC West title or anything, but you do return, in my opinion, one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Will Rogers. And Mike Leach will never be short of a quote. So it will be Nick Saban, and then it will be the Mike Leach show. They'll probably split those two up. One will go in the morning, probably Nick Saban. The other will go in the afternoon, probably Mike Leach. And then you'll sandwich Shane Bieber in South Carolina and Clark Lee and Vanderbilt along there with them. So 2 strong teams, 2 strong head coaches going to be in SEC Media Days on Tuesday. That is Nick Saban of Alabama and Mike Leach of Mississippi State. Now, Shane Beamer in South Carolina, a lot of intrigue there as well. Overachieved in year number 1, split the Steve Spurrier first-year head coaching award with Tennessee's Josh Heupel. Has recruited very, very well, has brought in talent via the transfer portal. Believe he's found his quarterback in Shane Rattler. Spencer Rattler, excuse me. We'll see how good South Carolina is, but there's a lot of intrigue there. So I think South Carolina and Shane Beamer will be also good to get on there on Tuesday. And then there's Clark Lee and Vanderbilt. And yeah, congratulations. You got thrown in there on Tuesday. We go to Wednesday. In my opinion, this is the dullest day. And it's not because the teams suck, because, there's some good quality football teams and programs and good situations here, but there's nothing noteworthy here. And it's very surprising because you got the national champions and Kirby Smart coming to Atlanta on Wednesday, day 3 of SEC Media Days in 2022. Georgia will be there. Florida will be there with Billy Napier. Arkansas will be there with Sam Pittman. And Kentucky will be there with Mark Stoops. If you want to talk about the throw-in team, maybe it's Kentucky, maybe it's Arkansas. I don't know. You got 4 programs that are in good spots right now, and I believe had obviously good leadership and coaches. We'll see about Billy Napier. He's the first-year coach. There's not a lot of drama surrounding these teams. Sure, there's drama with Florida this past year. We'll have to see how Billy Napier adjusts, how he adjusts to life in the SEC, how he continues to recruit. He's recruited, decently so far. Georgia's coming off a national championship. Sure, there's been players that have left that program. Stetson Bennett IV is going to continue to lead that team via the quarterback position. That'll be intrigued, but just coming off a national championship. Kentucky gave a big contract extension to Mark Stoops, coming off a 10-win season, returns a lot of playmaking ability on offense. new OC, but same system. We'll have to see there. And then Arkansas, which, has the potential, in my opinion, to beat some of the best teams in the country just on a given Saturday. And I think has really good leadership there with Sam Pittman. But there's not a lot of drama there was at one time with Florida back during the season. But I think Billy Napier's kind of, nipped that in the bud right now. Not a lot of drama there on a Wednesday. So, good programs, but we'll have to see, how good that day truly is. And of course, a lot can change between now and July. And then finally, we come to Thursday. You've noticed I haven't said Tennessee, Josh Heupel whatsoever. Tennessee's Josh Heupel will be in Atlanta on the final day of SEC Media Days 2022 on that Thursday. Josh Heupel will be joined by Kevin Harsin of Auburn and Jimbo Fisher of Texas A&M. So, you never want to be on the last day. If you guys listen to the show TSL on Monday morning, Tyler Albans and myself talked about it. You never want to be on the last day because by the last day, people try to get out of there. So many people will leave Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon. So many people will leave after the morning session on Thursday. By the time you have that afternoon session, remember 2 teams will go in the morning session. Then that third team, that last team will come back in the afternoon session. There is hardly anybody there. If Tennessee gets pinned in the afternoon session of Thursday in the SEC Media Days, boy, oh boy, that is not good. You never want to be on the last day. However, I see what the SEC is doing here. Tennessee's probably the throw-in team here, if we're being completely honest, because you have Auburn. I mean, with Harsin, what's the deal here, right? I mean, is he going to be fired by then? Doesn't look like it. Will he have an offensive and defensive coordinator? We'll see. But that's been just nothing but drama this entire offseason. So there'll be a ton of intrigue there, especially depending on how spring practice goes. And then you have Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. You know that there will never be a dull moment there. So if I'm the SEC, I'm doing Auburn and Tennessee in the morning. I'm holding Jimbo for the afternoon session to try to keep as many people, as many outlets there to cover Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. So it's unfortunate in my opinion. It's not the end of the world. It's just media days, right? But it is a huge event. It is the official lead-in to the college football season, in my opinion. And it's a fun week. It is a great week to go down there and network, get audio, get interviews, make connections. But it's a time for fans to hear, see, and kind of get a taste again, because football season at that point will just be a couple weeks away. Camp will just be literally just a week, maybe less than a week away at that point. So Tennessee and Josh Heupel will be down in Atlanta for the SEC Media Days on the finale on Thursday in Atlanta at the Omni Hotel. Okay, guys, that'll do it there for segment 2. Hope you guys enjoyed a little rundown there. Of course, we'll get more and more on that as time comes out. But that was, again, Friday afternoon news dump. Wanted to get that to you here early in the week as possible. We'll come back, get you set for Tennessee and Georgia here in just one moment, talking basketball. But football season, it's over. Pro basketball, college basketball really starting to heat up, especially with March Madness just coming up here in a couple of weeks. But for all the latest odds and totals and player performances and props and predictions on where the next head coach that's fired will land, BetOnline.net is your number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. It's not just basketball. BetOnline.net, your source for hockey. It's for boxing. It's for UFC. It's for all those odds right up to the Olympic coverage that just wrapped up last week. So right now, you can head on over to the website or you can use your mobile device and learn more about the trends and the latest action. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. We got one more segment left here on a Tuesday Locked On Vols. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, taking part in Twitter Tuesday, listening to my rants about the Major League Baseball lockouts, SEC Media Days, and more. But now it's time. Let's get you set for a 6:30 tip-off tonight, Tennessee at Georgia. All right, so black and white, the two opposites right here, right? You got number 13 Tennessee, 21-7 on the season, 12-4 in the Southeastern Conference, traveling on the road down to Athens, taking on a Georgia club that is just abysmal. 6-23, 1-15 in SEC play. Georgia is riding a 9-game losing streak. If we look back at these teams that Georgia has lost to during this streak, the last time Georgia won was on January 25th. It was an 82-76 win over Alabama. So it looked kind of decent at the time, right? And Alabama's been hovering around the top 25 since. But 9 straight wins. I mean, you've lost at Vanderbilt. You lost to Arkansas. Lost to number 1 Auburn. But though you took Auburn to the wire there, 74-72. You lost to at Florida. Lost to South Carolina. Lost at LSU. Lost to Ole Miss. Lost to Texas A&M. lost to Florida. This Georgia team is not good. That's kind of what I'm saying here. Key wins so far this season. I mentioned that Alabama game and December's first win over Memphis, two teams, Alabama and Memphis, that are kind of hovering around being tournament teams right now. Alabama is going to be a tournament team most likely, but Memphis hovering around being a tournament team. Other wins on the season, again, there's not many. 4 other wins other than those two I just mentioned. FIU back to open the season. South Carolina State on November the 16th. You had Jacksonville on December the 7th. And you had Western Carolina University on the 20th of December. I mean, gosh, this Tom Crean basketball club is not good. But again, it's a good coach. He's going to get fired this year, but Tom Crean's a good coach. And Alabama nearly took down top-ranked Auburn at the time just a couple weeks ago. So you can never just look over any game. You can never just use this as a trap game, getting yourself to Arkansas on Saturday. And I don't think Rick Barnes will allow that to happen. So Tom Crean, this is his 4th season. It's just not worked out. 47-72 overall record in 4 seasons at Georgia. Keep in mind, too, he had, oh, goodness, I couldn't think of his name the other morning on the radio either. Is it Anthony Jackson? Crap. Anyway, I'll think of it. If it's not, you guys can holler at me. The number 1 overall pick just a few years ago, he had him at Georgia, and you still only had a 47-72 overall record, right? Just not good. This year's ball club led by Kerio Oquendo. He is a Florida Southwestern State transfer this year, averaging 15.3 points per game. He's second on the team of 4.4 rebounds per game. In conference play, he's averaging 18.5 points per game. That's 4th in the SEC. In conference play, he's shooting 46.3% from the field. That's 5th in conference play. So you got a pretty good player there in the backcourt. Only a sophomore, Kerio Oquendo is his name. The other guy to maybe pay attention to is graduate transfer Aaron Cook. Now, Aaron Cook's been at Southern Illinois. Aaron Cook's been at Gonzaga. Now he's at Georgia, averaging 10.1 points per game, 5.6 assists per game. Those assist marks, that's 18th in the nation, 2nd in the SEC with 5.6 assists per game. So Kerio Oquendo and Aaron Cook are the 2 guys to watch out for this Georgia ball club. Any way you want to spin it, it's David against Goliath essentially in this matchup. You've got the net rankings. Tennessee comes in at 8th. Georgia comes in at 165th. Ken Palm's rankings. You ready for this? Tennessee comes in at 11th. Georgia comes in at 209th. Offensive efficiency, adjusted efficiency rating. This is all Ken Palm the rest of the way. Tennessee 40th, came back down. Was it about 33rd, 34th? Came back down after that slow first half against Auburn. 40th, Georgia's 95th. Defensive adjusted efficiency rating. Tennessee's 3rd. It's moved up. Georgia is 309th. 309th. Strength of schedule. Tennessee's got the 5th SOS schedule per Ken Palm. Georgia is at 35. So again, you got a good ball club that cannot afford to lose this game. You got a bad club. You got a really, really bad club that has absolutely nothing to lose. This would obviously be a marquee win for Georgia if they were able to take down Tennessee at home. Again, almost beat Auburn, who was ranked number 1 at the time, back on February the 5th. So you cannot overlook anybody. You just can't. Last time they met, Jaden Springer scored 30 points and pushed Tennessee to an 89-81 win back on February the 10th of last season. That was a home game. KD Johnson scored 22 points for Georgia. Josiah Jordan-James had a career high at the time of 18 points. Santiago Vescovi scored 19 points. He had a freshman of the week at that point in time, Keon Johnson. He had 11 points. He had a highlight dunk that was on SportsCenter's top 10. So Tennessee controlled the opening 15 minutes, holding Georgia just a 36% shooting clip. Tennessee shot well hot, really, really hot from the field in the first half, 58%. The last 5 minutes of the game, though, Tennessee went down, able to come back. Georgia made a run, but Tennessee able to hold on for that 89-81 win at home last year over Georgia. Tennessee, so far in the series, leads 97-61. This series dates back, all the way back to 1913. So Tennessee can't afford to overlook anybody. We'll need to go down to Athens, take care of business tonight, and then come back, get ready for checkered TBA against Arkansas to finish off the regular season on Saturday. All right, take a deep breath. Congrats, everybody. That is the Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols, action-packed. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with me here today. Thanks so much for taking part in Twitter Tuesday. Thank you for making Locked On Vols your first listen. Now, for your second listen, Locked On the NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy, former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker. They bring you the NFL Draft to life every single day with insights and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's free, available wherever you get your podcast. After Locked On Vols is making you your first listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft. Guys, thanks so much. Continue to subscribe to YouTube. Let's get to 1,000, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everybody.